it's on another plane, on another level. I think I answered that question before about what happens with those souls that have no need for another incarnation. But getting back to your first question, just what determines the shape and form of the incarnated soul is the prior lifetime cassette, as I'd like to call it, of the actions of this individual in a prior lifetime. That will govern and direct again, a replay. Everything happens again, all over again, giving the individual or that soul another opportunity to correct that which he did in a prior lifetime.
Well, as I'm understanding his question is who makes the determination when he's going to reincarnate? Is that pretty much an individual responsibility?
This is going to sound very strange, but we're touching on another subject. Why do some souls wind up with one set of parents, and some souls wind up in a mansion with luxury, and the other one in a deprived neighborhood and with no chance of advancement? Who determined that? The Lord? That would be an unfair situation. It certainly smells of inequality. And consequently, getting into who determines that, without getting into the details, it's the parents who provide, at the time of intercourse and conception, determine which soul is going to reside with them. In other words, two people who might even hate each other, but sex is a very strange phenomenon. And while they couldn't stand each other's guts, nevertheless, they can still decide on having sex that evening. But the fact that their energy intelligence is of a nature and quality of extreme negativity, they then, and as a result of that, of the intercourse, conception ensued, the conception prepares a vessel that is capable of handling this extreme negativity, and consequently you have a child who is negative. But that child is negative because there is a soul that needs that kind of, that particular vessel of negativity to fulfill is what we call the tikkun process, the correction process. So you see that so much is not within the realm of the Lord. So much is really free choice, but maybe you've got to know the rules and regulations. But it all winds up to our own doing.
Okay, well that's not so far off from what I think.
Want to make it quick, Alan? We got a buzz.
Okay, one last one. What's the technology of the Kabbalah? How do you achieve this loss of self-grasping that you seem to talk about, or selfishness, and actually improve yourself?
I think the first step is recognizing our own limitations and recognizing that two opinions are both correct at all times. And once we recognize that everyone else's opinion is correct as mine is, because in Ecclesiastes we're told that, chapter 7, that God created one against the other. In other words, and Heisenberg, I guess, with his uncertainty principle, established that principle, that everything is real and everything is unreal. Who is right and who is wrong? If the way you see things as reality is reality, and if someone sees it in just in an opposite perspective, that's reality too. So we're all right and we're all wrong. And once we begin to recognize the finite of ourselves, I think we're really heading towards a road of understanding our fellow neighbor.
Okay, Alan, does that help you?
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you
Bye-bye.
for the questions. And thank you for the answers there. They were fine. I'm Bill Jenkins. Tonight we're talking about the Kabbalah. And with me is Rabbi Philip Berg on the line. Hello.
Hello?
Yes?
Hi, this is
Rabbi Kravitz?
Yes, it is.
How are you, Rabbi?
Good evening. How are you?
It's good to have you aboard.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask a question, a clarification on the last explanation that Rabbi Berg gave about who determines how a person's reincarnated. It was my understanding, and specifically in learning a book, a Kabbalistic book, a Hasidic philosophy book called Tanya, that it's really God that determines where a person is reincarnated, and the concept of the relationship of the parent, the physical relationship determining having some effect on the soul, has to do with the spiritual garments that the person is invested in of thought, speech, and action, machshava, diva, and maisa, and not that they determine which soul is born into which body. So that seemed pretty different than what I had been learning in the Kabbalah.
Thank you for your question, Rabbi. As we know that there are 70 different faces to the understanding of the Torah, the Bible. I have simply quoted, without quoting my source reference, but the Rabbi Isaac Luria in his Gates of Reincarnation, I believe it's chapter 27, Perek Kav Zayin. I think it's page 92. I'm not familiar, but I'd be more than happy to refer the source reference, the direct source reference. That which I mentioned previously to one of the callers is exactly as stated by Rabbi Isaac Luria. There are different understandings. There was always two giants in Talmudical literature. Tanaim, one said permitted, and the other one said it was not permitted. And from a Kabbalistic point of view, we know they're both correct. If you understand the phrase, they're both correct. And if we, on our terrestrial level, if we can understand that all of us, with our strict opinions and thoroughly knowledgeable, all of us are thoroughly knowledgeable, nevertheless, the other person's opinion is also correct, as diametrically opposed as it might be. Consequently, there are different viewpoints, and they're all correct. However we understand that they're all correct. But what I did quote you was straight from Rabbi Isaac Luria's Gates of Reincarnation.
It just seems a tremendous limitation on God to say that He is not involved in the determination of whether a person, as you said, is born into a family of wealthy people or a family of very poor people. I mean, it seems that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from God, and it would seem a tremendous limitation. You kind of hesitated when you said that, and it seems that all Kabbalistic literature and Hasidic literature really puts, everything in God's hand except Kol B'dei Shemayim Chutz Mi'yireh Shemayim. Everything is God's hand except the fear of God. And it just seems so different than...
No, it's not different at all. The statement you just quoted in Hebrew is something I am completely in accord with. Then we'd probably be spending, I'd say, the next couple of Saturday night sessions on Bechira v'Yidiyah. In other words, if God knows all, then where is our free will in choice, and is it all determined? So the fellow says who murders, look, God knew in advance I was going to murder. We'd have to get into that kind of a discussion. From a Kabbalistic point of view, I'm happy to say, and in my forthcoming book, Reincarnation, I'm going to present the idea of the way I received it from my teacher, and that it is not contradictory. God knows it all. But then again, if He knows it all, then is He involved? Well, He's involved. Yes, of course He's involved. He is what we say in Hebrew, the mapik. He's the producer of the show. He is the one who is going to place that soul. I mean, who's going to place the soul with those particular parents who are building the kind of body that will be the proper receptacle for the soul. I mean, that the parent does not do. I mean, that soul enters by means of the producer being the Lord. So He's involved very much so. But indetermination, which was the question, that is left to man. We do have we do exert a certain amount of free will.
So you're holding that way.
Yeah. No, that's not my opinion. I'm merely quoting. In fact, all my books, I'm happy to say, is none of my material. It's everything that I've learned, and I quote in all my books the source references. So it's not my opinion. I may have misinterpreted what was written, and I would have to agree with you. But nevertheless, this is the way I read Rabbi Isaac Lurie's interpretation of determinism in the rebirth, reincarnation of the soul.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for
clarifying
that.
Well, thank you for joining us there, Rabbi.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have, is that Pierluigi? I'm trying to get you in. Here we are. Are you with us now, Pierluigi?
Yes. Good evening, Bill.
The button didn't want to stick. But now we've got you.
First of all, let me congratulate you for your show. I think it's wonderful. I've been waiting for almost 2 hours to talk to you, and I think it's been worth every single second. I do have a few questions. I've been hearing a lot about your program, but nobody has touched the subject of Atlantis or the subject of... I heard at the beginning of the show you were talking about astronauts about 2,000 years ago. It seems that the most important questions in the show is about reincarnation. So let's start with the question, excuse me, with the question about reincarnation. Let me put it this way. The population of the world is growing every day. 2,000 years ago there wasn't as much population as there is today. And, of course, it seems that nowadays we have more bodies here than there were souls to start with. So, how do you explain that?
And they're all on the San Diego freeway.
Excuse me.
Just throwing in a little levity here, Pierluigi. The question being, we have so many more living human beings now than we had, say, 5,000 years ago.
That's right. In other words, it seems that there are more bodies now than there were souls to start with.
Where does the spiritual intelligences, where the souls come from?
That's right.
Okay.
Just how many souls are there?
Well, that's what I expect you to...
Well, from a Kabbalistic point of view, one soul can be divided into an infinite number of levels of consciousness, and they'll all be classified as an individual soul, although they may be part of one whole soul. But getting to your question of there appears to be so many more people around, again, Rabbi Isaac Lurie in his Gates of Reincarnation touches on that subject. And says, since we have entered the age of Aquarius, and we're going to have to speed up the process. There isn't that much time left. In fact, from a Talmudical point of view and both from a Kabbalistic point of view, the approaching of 6,000 years, and that leaves us just with about 255 years. And all those souls who have to come back are going to have to come back in a very limited number of years.
What's going to happen in 255 years from now?
Well, either that ball of fire comes down if we can't do the job, or we're all going to do it. But we're living in the age of enlightenment, and that's certainly a plus on our side.
Excuse me, in the age of what? I come from a different country, so there are some words in English that I still don't understand. I'm sorry.
No, what I'm saying is that the process has to be speeded up, and consequently, so many souls that are in the wings on the stage of history waiting to return for a correction purpose requires a larger number of corporeal bodies to handle these infinite amount of souls. And since there is a limited time left by which they can make their appearance, we therefore experience so many more people coming into existence, more than ever before.
But that doesn't mean that the souls weren't always out there, here, Lindsay, waiting for an opportunity to get into physical life. They may have had to wait a long time because there just weren't that many little opportunities, but they're growing for them now.
Well, and in this case, where did these souls come from? How did they originate? Was it a creation of God? Where are they waiting now?